Hi, I am Katie Taylor. I am a certified child life specialist and the CEO and founder of Child Life on Call. You are listening to Child Life 101, and this is a series where we look at different topics and interventions from child life specialists and break them down for parents and professionals that work with kids so that you can improve communication with children, navigate difficult topics, and get some of the insight and tips that we know as a child life specialist and we use with families in difficult healthcare situations or challenging life events. I am so glad that you are here. Today, our topic is how to support siblings of children who have an illness, a diagnosis, or are hospitalized. And we can typically think of, the chronic kid who is in the hospital for a long time, but this goes for any child that is having a surgery or a NICU baby, and we're talking about older siblings. So we're going to break down this topic into 4 different sections. The first one is going to be all about how child life specialists provide accurate information to a sibling when their brother or sister is sick, has a diagnosis, or is being hospitalized, or has to have a surgery, or needs to wear a brace, or whatever the situation may be. The second part is going to be why communication between the family system is so essential in the health and well-being of the siblings, and provide a few suggestions on how to tackle that. Third, we're going to talk about how to address the emotional needs and reactions from siblings when you provide any type of news or information or education that may be either distressing or upsetting or just new and complex. And lastly, we'll transition into how to normalize the experience for siblings. And I'm excited about that because that's where we really get to do a lot of the fun stuff that comes with being a child life specialist. And now you, the parent or professional, can know how to do it too. This all in all will be about a 13 to 15 minute podcast. And I am so looking forward to sharing this with you. I have done the Child Life on Call podcast and hosted it for almost 7 years now. In fact, it's June. Oh my gosh, 7 years. And this topic of siblings and kind of the forgotten experience that they go through comes up time and time again with families. And so I'm just so pleased to now be able to give you some of the insight that I've had in my experience as a child life specialist. So last week in Child Life 101 Week 3, we talked about how to provide complex or difficult information to kids. So I would go back and re-listen to that or listen to that for the first time because it's going to give you a sense of how to approach complex topics with kids of all different ages, from toddlers all the way up to high schoolers. So that is incredibly essential. But I want to talk about how sometimes we can assume that we don't need to go into great detail with siblings because they're not the ones who are getting the procedure, or they're not the ones with the diagnosis, or perhaps we should shelter the sibling so that they don't feel some of the hardships that's going on. But I can tell you in my years of experience as a child life specialist and also a parent, if we don't give kids the opportunity and the age appropriate information, they will start to come up with their own summaries of what is going on. And that may be accurate or inaccurate. And what we know about child development is kids can tend to be egocentric, and not in a negative way, but think that their role in something, especially if it's negative, is bigger than it actually is. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. In one of my podcast episodes, I interviewed a child life specialist. Her name is Julie May. She works for a wonderful organization called Wonders and Worries. And Julie discussed that the child of an adult patient that she was working with, the adult patient had cancer and was going through treatment, and the child was not totally brought into the conversation of what was happening and was having a lot of trouble at school. And Julie described that every time the child was at school and heard an ambulance go by, the child assumed that the parent was being taken to the hospital. And so that wasn't discovered until the open dialogue started between the parent and the child. And that's why it's so essential for that communication to start and that education to be given. You don't have to go into really specific details about how the surgery works or this or that, but kids will generally ask questions that they want to have answers about. And you can read their body language in knowing how far to go or when to stop. But you're always going to do really well when you think about breaking down into simple, honest explanations. There's no need to rush through a conversation, have it all at one time. I'm also going to include a link to a podcast episode with Michelle. Michelle is the mother of 2 kids. Her firstborn son was diagnosed with cancer, and she talks about how she navigated that with her second child, her daughter, and how instead of keeping her away, she brought her daughter to the hospital often. And that was really where their relationship began, and it's also where their relationship became stronger, and how her daughter being there was such a sense of comfort and normalization to her son, and those are the memories that they have together. So I will link that. It's a really important episode to listen to. So next we're going to transition into encouraging communication. We talked about how if kids aren't included in the conversation, they're going to make up the answers in their own mind. And so it's better to include them from the very beginning. Not only include them and talk to them, but get feedback, right? Communication is never just a one-way street. You want to ask questions. You want to get their opinion about things, see what they want to help with. Maybe you assume that they don't want to come to the doctor's appointments, but perhaps they do. And so it's really just that two-way communication that they can depend and rely on. And the more that door is opened, the more they will come to you when things are troubling. So that puts us into section 3, which is addressing the emotional needs of siblings. It's incredibly natural for siblings to be worried, upset, or acting out when something in their family is different. And that can be a diagnosis or divorce or any kind of life-changing event. And so what we can do as parents and professionals is look past the behavior and see what's really going on. One of my favorite books by Dan Siegel, he talks about chasing the why. So instead of seeing and reacting to the behavior, understand and chase the why are they acting this way. We often tell parents to pull on that community that they're a part of. They don't have to go make a new community, but think about school teachers, principals, guidance counselors, their church or synagogue or workout community, and get those trusted adults involved in the other children's lives. And what that does is that creates a sense of community and kind of a beautiful safety net for the sibling to feel supported, not only by you, the parents, but also by the community around them. Some of the feelings that you may see come up in kids who have a sibling that is sick or injured or going through this difficult experience is jealousy. And it definitely does not make a lot of sense to us because we're like, why would you want to go through that? But what they're really longing for is, it may appear that the other child, the sick child, the ill child, is in the spotlight and getting all of this special attention. And really that's what they desire. So any kind of special time where you can really take those few minutes, as difficult as it may be to find that time, it can be just such a game changer for siblings. And lastly, as child life specialists, we normalize the experience for siblings. So when they come to the hospital, sometimes our only intervention or our only goal is to get them to play. We bring them to the playroom, we get them to play with little toys, and that makes the hospital environment itself less scary, right? It's more approachable when you know and you get to pick out your favorite book. When they are with their sibling in the patient room, we'll often try to facilitate an activity between the two of them, depending on, the age and whatever is going on and how sick or ill or injured the patient may be. But what that does is it kind of creates this, like, when I'm there, I have something to do. I'm engaged with something. Also, there are so many wonderful organizations out there who are just for siblings. The patient may have an illness or diagnosis, but the sibling is the one who's also suffering because their life has changed. And organizations and communities know that. So we have lists of sibling support that I will also link in here in this podcast so that you can look up these organizations and see how they can interact with other peers, whether it be through camp or virtual support or whatever it may be, but they can see other kids that have siblings just like them. If you are still listening to this, I'm so grateful, and I know that this probably only covers the tip of the iceberg, but please feel free to reach out and comment. Make sure you head to childlifeoncall.com/parents to get our free resource kit for parents. Learn how to prepare your child for shots, how to give them medicine. You can meet and connect with a child life specialist and also learn more about all of the things we're doing and all of the free resources we have that are specific for parents. We're also super active on Instagram and dabble in TikTok. Every Wednesday, we have a new parent episode where they share their own journeys and experiences in having a child that has to go through any kind of medical situation. Thanks so much for being here.